Los Angeles, I'm and most Hollywood nights. She goes to California, oh, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on a Thursday, January 11th, a busy Thursday, January 11th. We're going to talk about rumors. We got a big one that's on the cusp of signing. As a matter of fact, the LA Times put it out. We have details about it. There's a lot of interesting stuff coming around about Gabriel Pec. We're going to talk about him, see where we're at. Also, LA Galaxy part ways with Yovan Kovski, a guy who has been around the club for a very long time. We're going to talk about the history of that. Single game tickets on sale for Miami. Lots and lots and lots and lots of rumors. To help me do all that, glad to have him back on the show. He is your reporter extraordinaire with the Galactic Tribune. Welcome back, Mr. Alex Ruiz. Alex, how you doing, buddy? Goody?
I'm good, Josh. How are you doing, man?
Hey,
I don't know if it's too late. Happy New Year.
I was gonna say statute of limitations already ran out. It's only supposed to be 3-4 days. That's it. You can't say Happy New Year anymore. But I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. How was the holiday season treating you? Okay, not too bad.
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty busy. Lots of food. Gained some weight for sure. So I'm definitely back on the exercise grind right now to get back into shape, both physically and for this LA Galaxy season.
I know. I was gonna say I sort of feel like we had like a little bit of a break, and I don't remember, and we're not gonna bear any leads here. I promise we'll get to the big talking points rather quickly today. I don't remember an LA Galaxy transfer window that has been this active, and it's one thing to have names thrown out, right? And we've seen names being thrown out, but we've been able to verify a bunch of those names. So it's not just, oh, this name is being linked with the LA Galaxy, and it's like, okay, cool, yeah, that guy's never come in, or yeah, everybody's just, this is agents just sort of trying to do that. I have killed a couple rumors, absolutely, in this transfer window. I have verified way more than I have killed, and I don't know that I remember an LA Galaxy team that is more put together whenever it comes to this stuff. I mean, Sosa, Solari, and then you're like, okay, that's kind of a normal transfer window for the Galaxy. Oh, they're looking at Sosa and Solari. Oh, you look, oh, Pec is in there now. Oh, Pellistri's in there now. Oh, you can keep going, and it's like every time there's an A and a B, which I think has sort of been the plan for the Galaxy over the years. We have plan A, and we have plan B, and after that, we run around and we panic. It's A, B, C, D, E, F. It's like it just keeps going, and the quality and the attributes they're looking for seem to be consistent through. Like you can sort of tell what they're trying to go after. So I don't know. That's just for me. But what's been your take on it so far?
Yeah, I think, like you mentioned, right, there's definitely been a lot of names linked, but I think what intrigues everybody the most is the type of names that are linked. You know, it's not just some aging superstar, some guy who's close to being out of contract. These are guys with serious potential from across the world, from different markets. And I think that's the one thing that excites a lot of Galaxy fans is we haven't really seen that so long. And especially right now, as we're going to talk about later on, and as you mentioned with Solari and Sosa, I mean, young South American talent that we haven't really seen the LA Galaxy go after. I'm not counting Pavon because that was a loan. Norione Gonzalez, if you guys even remember him. So, I mean, this is the first time that we've really seen the Galaxy be active in this way, in this modern MLS. And I think everyone, is excited. And there's going to be a lot of hype building around the LA Galaxy for that reason.
I think the other thing is, and it's definitely a transition for me, because we're so often linked to the stars. You see the LA Galaxy linked to these stars, these big name players, that things. It's almost one of those things that you can look at. Oh, there's a big name who wants to come to the LA Galaxy this offseason. You're like, that's a fake rumor. Like, that one's not the real one.
Exactly.
It's an adjustment, though. You sort of wonder. Offset by all of this is the Miami game that's coming up as the season opener. I was talking to some LA Galaxy front office people, and they're like, good thing the first game isn't going to be like, paid attention to all that much. Everything's going to have to be going. A lot of pressure on Greg Vanney, Will Kuntz, the entire technical staff trying to get things right from the very drop, because it's Miami, but it's also LAFC, I think, in the first 9 games, right? And we've looked at those first 9 games are not a picnic for this LA Galaxy team. So all this stuff is mounting a lot of pressure, and so far what you're seeing is the Galaxy being calm, composed, and going after. It was interesting because Solari and Sosa right now both wanted more money, both standing there holding exactly $0. And so that's very un-Galaxy-like in the last years, right, in the whole deal. So anyway, a lot of stuff to sort of talk about. People are commenting on my pupusa hat. I would like to point out this is my haircut hat as well. But I love pupusas, I love AFJA, and I love this hat, so it works well for me too. So I'm okay with that part of it.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, it is. It's totally a win-win. So my wife thinks this hat actually looks pretty cute on me too. So overall, not a bad day for Josh here as it goes. Let's get to the very beginning news, and I would like to point out, Hammer a lot of times is here. Hammer and Kevin, right? The Panda and Hammer are out at the Sidekicks convention, as we're calling it. The North American Soccer Coaches Convention that's at Anaheim Convention Center. They're there. They'll be there tomorrow. They'll also be there on Saturday. So make sure you stop by and check it out. You can say hi to those guys. I am not probably going to go just because my work schedule is really busy. But those guys are holding down the fort. I know that Hammer got to say hi to Brad Friedel and Eddie Lewis today. So a little hello. And they do have the ability to do some interviews there as well. So we have that sort of in there. So once they give me some audio and some stuff, if there's some things that we want to play, we'll put those on some future shows as well. So a lot of stuff happening. Also, Media Day out in Miami, right? So that's going on right now. I'd like to. Okay, do you know who the LA Galaxy took for Media Day?
I checked the email. I don't think they took anybody. Right?
They did. They took 2 people. They took. Now here's the crazy thing about Media Day right now. First of all, they took the 2 nicest guys in the world. Jalen Neal went, I'll get it eventually. Hold on.
Oh,
it was one of those. I was right on the tip of my tongue, and then I forgot it, and then it's Maya Yoshida.
Yoshida?
Yeah, it's Yoshida. Yeah.
Boom.
Yeah, I should have said nicest. Like if I said the nicest guys that you could imagine, Jalen Neal would be there, and Yoshida would be there as well. So they took them to Media Day. Here's the crazy thing. Galaxy, everybody, official report date for the start of the preseason, Saturday. So they had Media Day before they actually had to report, and usually it's after they have to report. So I was sort of like, oh, I thought Ricky would have been there. You get Ricky Puig out of Media Day. Well, he's still in Spain because he doesn't have to be back for it until Saturday. So he's packing up, getting ready to go, and so he'll be back too. So they had Media Day out there and doing that. I think there were some pictures of people they were trying to sneak some jersey looks at some of these guys. They're all wearing sweatshirts because they're probably the
they're
real.
All doing that to cover the new kids.
Yep, that's right. So I can't do that. And the whole deal. Logan, by the way, says father and son, Neil and Yoshida. Absolutely, 100%. I like that. So that's going on Media Day, and then all the news here. Now, let's get to the news. At 11 o'clock this morning, that was about 10 minutes after I got in the car to go run an errand, and so therefore I got a phone call, and I was like, wait, what? What happened? Oh, okay. I didn't know. The LA Galaxy put out a tweet and also issued a press release. LA Galaxy part ways with Technical Director Yovan Kovski. Let's go over the entire press release right now. LA Galaxy part ways with Technical Director Yovan Kovski. Los Angeles, Thursday, January 11th, 2024. The LA Galaxy today announced that the club has parted ways with Technical Director Yovan Kovski. So there is your press release and everything in there. And, I'm going to say this, I know, and certainly it was my indication that I would look at this and say, wow, that press release there's not a lot of meat there. But in actuality, Alex, it probably tells the story exactly as it needed to be told. And if you wanted to read any context in there, I would imagine you might be right. If you and I parted ways, if I sent you a text message and I was like, hey, Alex, I don't want you on the show anymore, you'd probably be like, thanks, right? Like, there's not a lot. What are you going to, yeah, you could cuss me out and do some stuff, but you don't do that in press releases and the whole deal. So I imagine people, I don't know that if you mutually terminate and go ways, then there can be all sorts of flowery language and all that. But this seemed to be one-sided in this particular release. And so for me, I don't think that is the big deal. The big deal for me is that Yovan Kovski is with this team for a tremendous amount of time. With the LA Galaxy in 2004, 2005, back with the LA Galaxy, this is as players in 2009, 2011, has a long history. Obviously, was was the first American to go and play for the Manchester United youth team, right? So 1993 to 1996, sort of in there. He was with Borussia Dortmund. This is an incredibly accomplished soccer player internationally. Yes. And then came back, played for the LA Galaxy, the Colorado Rapids, San Jose Earthquakes, the Galaxy again in 2009, 2011. Assistant coach in 2012, MLS Cup winning 2012 year. Was on 2011's MLS Cup winning team. Was on 2010's Supporter Shield winning team. 2009's MLS Cup final team, right? I mean, Yovan Kovski plays a large part of history in the LA Galaxy. And then in 2013 was the technical director and had been with the LA Galaxy in the front office all the way through the tumultuous years in 2017, where everything sort of went. I mean, I don't think it's surprising. And if we're being honest on this show, Alex, I've been saying that Yovan probably shouldn't have been with the organization since 2017, and have been pretty consistent with that as we rolled through this. What do you make of this move? Was it surprising for you?
Not surprising at all for me. I mean, look, when I think of this press release and how short it was, for me, it just kind of indicates what I think of Yovan Kovski is I don't really see him that much. The only time I'd really see him is if I go midweek to talk to players during training or coaches during training. Only time I see him, I don't ever recollect seeing him, myself personally, at a game. It feels like for a while, we've seen Chris Klein and Yovan Kovski be dumped in, the same vein for the whole Klein out movement, the boycott, etc. It's not a surprise to me. We've seen a lot of a refreshing within the organization with the people that they've brought in, with just the overall vibe within the organization. And I feels like this was probably a piece that they were fully okay with letting go and really get the train wheels moving. We are seeing right now with all the transfer rumors and things like that, but this club is moving forward. And this was probably one of those steps to keep advancing forward. And in my opinion, I think this was probably something the clubs might been wanting to do for maybe the past year or so, ever since the boycott started.
Yeah, I mean, the boycott was Kirovski specifically named in the boycott whenever that happened. Interesting that it sort of takes this long and we make it around to this particular ending. I had been talking and we had heard about Kirovski sort of adjusting to the new style, right? And this out of the referral system. We've talked about the agent referral system that the Galaxy were mostly relying on, even under Bruce Arena and everything else. But basically agents would refer guys and then the Galaxy would be like, oh, we like that guy. We don't like that guy. It was sort of like, hey, bring your best to us and we shall pick. And now what you're seeing and the result of what you're seeing is, an actual scouting sort of layout, right? Ghost teams, when we talked about ghost teams so many times in here, but having different levels of different players. And when this guy can't go, I mean, you saw the perfect example of a ghost team with Solari, Sosa, and Pec, right? And so that's what happens when you have ghost teams. You're like, these are our top 3 guys that we want. And then we're going to rank them and we're sort of going to go, we want this. Well, and the 1s and 2s and 3s change just depending on how much you think you can get a guy for and the whole deal. I mean, supposedly Sosa, Solari, turned down $12.5, $10 million transfers. You're going to get Pec here, and we'll talk about it in a second, at about 10 plus 1.5 on incentives, plus a 30% sell on as well. So you can sort of see how that all goes. But this is sort of that system. It's about scouting. It's about analytics. It's about identifying your players and going out and finding the players with the characteristics that you want and not having somebody come in. And I think Yovan certainly excelled at the relationship building. I mean, let's play Yovan Kovski's greatest hits, because for me, that's the really interesting part. To me. You have Jonathan and Giovanni Dos Santos are largely attributed to Yovan Kovski. Jelle Van Dam Roman Alessandrini, Jonathan Dos Santos. We talked about Zlatan Ibrahimovic is probably, his biggest get, and Zlatan loved Yovan Kovski, right? That type of thing.
I think I remember one time on Zlatan's story, it's just him and Kirovski smoking cigars out there. So they definitely were pretty close.
I knew I forgot something tonight. I knew I forgot my cigars. That would have been it. That would have been the play. So, you look at this and you go through the whole thing. Again, there's lots of successes in this, right? But the problem is the LA Galaxy haven't been successful under that system. And in 2017, under Pete Vagenas and Kurt Onalfo and Chris Klein and Yovan Kovski, anybody can talk about all the teams and how they've sort of played out. Alex, I was there in 2017, and that's the worst soccer I've ever seen the LA Galaxy play. And you can't, you could say all you want about the LA Galaxy last year, and they finished in 13th place. They were at least exciting to watch, and they had ideas, and you could see that there was a base for something. In 2017, that was not the case. And so that's the big deal. So, I mean, Kirovski, and I think with most things, you can certainly go negative, and I think there's a lot of negatives to his tenure with the LA Galaxy. But you can point out the positives too, and I think if you don't do both and you don't look at both, then it's kind of unfortunate with Klein and Kirovski and maybe even Vagenas a little bit, is you have these guys who are sort of club legends or club heroes or at least highly respected club players. They stuck around long enough to be the villains, right? It's always if you're hero long enough, hopefully you're going to stick around. You're going to go out as the villain, right? So that's the interesting part to me. I mean, is there a place for Yovan Kovski somewhere in Major League Soccer? That's sort of, people were asking where's he going to go? He's going to become an agent? Is he going to do, this other stuff? And I'm always like, if somebody thinks they can help, he can help the team, then yeah, I think that he could land somewhere else in Major League Soccer or somewhere else, around the world. I don't think this is the end for Yovan.
No, not at all. I mean, like you mentioned earlier, right? This is a guy who has pedigree in Europe as well. Has connections like we've talked about with Zlatan. My thing with Kirovski that strikes me about him is, he seems more of a guy who would not really be part of a system too much and more of somebody who would go rogue and do things on his own. Somebody who I don't think is comfortable being, a part of a system or being contained to doing just this. Which kind of sums up the Galaxy during that era where they were kind of just doing whatever they could to keep everything together, despite the big signs that this wasn't going to be consistent, this wasn't going to be efficient, this wasn't going to lead to wins, trophies, or nothing. Now we're seeing the Galaxy being a lot more organized. We're seeing the system behind the scenes being utilized a lot more, as we're seeing in this transfer window. And I feel like that doesn't play to what Kirovski would like to do. And it makes sense why Galaxy and Kirovski would part ways.
I gave, and let's be very clear. I gave Eric and Kevin an assignment, and I said, hey guys, do me a favor. Please record me a quick little podcast, 5-10 minutes, just hit it from the convention floor and I'll play it on the show and it's going to be great. And then they went and they tried to make fun of me on my own podcast. They were like, oh, well, we don't know what to do without Dad being here. And there's a reason Dad is here, because if Dad would have been there, the podcast would have been 5 to 10 minutes long. Instead it was 22 minutes and I couldn't play it. So Eric, what do you have to say for yourself after getting bounced from the 22-minute podcast and now I have to call you in order to make your content fit onto the show?
Well, I'd like to invite everyone. There's going to be a new feed dropping on Wednesdays, Panda and the Hammer, 22-minute shows. We'll be recording these, weekly. Just, we're going to get one topic where we're supposed to talk about it for 5 to 8 minutes, and then we're going to talk about it for 20 to 30 minutes. I think that's the format that the people want, the format that the people need. So basically, I'm here to promote our new show, COG Sidekick Edition that's happening. Yeah. So you put us in charge. Dad was away. And we did do our job. We messed up the house.
Yeah, that's
to call the cops.
Yeah, I'm not sure I should let you guys stay at the convention, but So talk to me about the Sidekick Convention real first before I get your take on Yovan Kovski. That's what I'm calling it, the Sidekick Convention.
Yeah, so I was at the United States Soccer Coaches Convention. It's a big to-do. It's a big convention yearly. There's seminars and player demos, and it's just kind of a big deal amongst soccer coaches, and a lot of vendors go out to kind of do their thing. So we were part of Media Row, so we're kind of able to see, talk to a few people, schmooze with the people, kind of see in the vendor area, give out some stickers and talk to, the kind of the who's who of American soccer. Saw a few, former Galaxy player Eddie Lewis out there. Brad Friedel was there. He's involved with the podcast. So just kind of some people around in the soccer world, and this is just it's their one yearly big deal convention that they go to. Being in education, there's teacher conventions that we go to. It reminds me of The Office, where they go to the convention, they get their swag bags and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
It just happens to be that this is soccer coaches, this is their thing. If you've gone to any type of convention for any type of corporate America job, this is very similar to that. Everyone is just excited to get their swag bags and do their thing. It just happens to be that the soccer is the job and the occupation of these people. But I was excited to go, happy to represent Corny of the Galaxy, and we'll be there tomorrow and Saturday, I believe. So we'll see what else we can pull for it. Maybe we'll get another 22 minutes from the Panda Night tomorrow.
That's right. Mr. Provino, by the way, gave you a $5 super chat. Says, here's to fund the new COG show. So you're already giving me money, which is always nice.
Perfect.
Yep, that's right. It's going great so far. Darren, and I'm hoping, Darren, I do this with justice, because I'm assuming that you're going with the community side of this. But Panda and Hammer in the Morning is the name of the show apparently right now. So that's sort of where we're at. So tell me, I called you to see how the convention was, and you're like, oh yeah, hey, I'm just working on this breaking news. I'm like, what breaking news? Because I was in the car driving whenever it all got announced, and you're like, oh, Yovan's gone, and I'm like, oh wow, I didn't even know that. I guess I should probably check some things out. So I went back and checked my phone after that. What you and Kevin were at the convention, what's the general consensus around these people who know soccer, who know who Yovan Kovski is?
Yeah, so it was kind of funny how I got the news as well. I'm there setting up tablecloths and microphones and everything, and Kevin walks in and he goes, Yovan was fired. I was like, okay, well, I'm sorry, what? So it kind of caught me by surprise.
Right.
When I didn't have my phone with me, wasn't in there with breaking news, but basically that was the big news for today. And from the people that we were able to kind of talk to off the record and kind of go around, they basically were saying this seems like it was a long time coming. Seems like it was about time, and as harsh and as bad as that sounds, with the Chris Klein era effectively being put to an end, this is kind of the final chapter of that. And I think that's kind of the general consensus amongst the fan base, but also amongst people in the soccer world who kind of know, are familiar with the Galaxy organization. I don't think it was a surprise to anyone. The writing was kind of on the wall, especially with Will Kuntz being the one named Chief Soccer Operations. I don't know if that's his official title. I know, something like that. But basically, with him in charge, this is like, when you get a new girlfriend, and she still wears the old boyfriend's hoodies, it's like, okay, it's time to get rid of the old hoodie. This is, we're not going to be wearing that anymore. This is now,
Right.
my neck of the woods, and we're gonna, let me buy you a new one. We're gonna fix things. I'm the new guy in town, and I think this was, I don't know that it's a message sent by Will Kuntz, but it's kind of the final, not that it's a final boss, but it's kind of like, okay, now this is, Will Kuntz's ship, and he's the one who's driving the ship, and whatever happens with the Galaxy moving forward, it's going to be, because of the decisions with him at the helm, there's not any more holdovers from the Chris Klein era. And I think that's, for better or worse, especially with the boycott that happened as well, Chris Klein, or Klein out, was not the only focus of that. Yovan out was also kind of an under the radar part of that with a lot of the supporter groups as well. So this is kind of the final piece to put to rest that era of the LA Galaxy that we were so unhappy with for these last 5, 6, 7 years.
Yeah. By the way, Alex, Hammer and I can agree. If you want to harass your wife eventually in the future, get a girlfriend, get a wife eventually. Just whenever she puts on a shirt or something, just tell her, you're like, oh, my ex had one of those. Good memories. Right. That's a good way to keep the spark alive. Right. That's what it is. Yeah.
I was gonna say, you got Alex on as well. We have covered every single sidekick. We gotta take the whole band on tour.
We gotta get Sophie. So
we're all gonna get our own side shows and whatnot.
Yeah, right. We're gonna have a whole side channel that is way off to the side.
Expand the corner of the Galaxy universe.
Yep. Josie, a $5 super chat, says, cheers to the rebirth and rise of our galactic empire. So everybody's feeling, I think, pretty good now. So that's good. I'm glad. Eric, anything else from the convention that you want to share? You're going to be out there tomorrow and on Saturday as well. People can come out and visit you, right?
Yeah, they will be at Media Row. So if you happen to be at the convention, the exhibit hall opens around, those hours are about 4 o'clock. So I kind of misjudged that. I didn't know it was an evening event. So I was there early in the morning, but, I was able to get some work done, some big boy work done, some other things. But, I'll be open Friday and Saturday. So I think Saturday, it's more of an early morning thing. I think you might make an appearance there as well. So if you happen to be in the coaching universe and this is your thing and you're able to kind of make it happen, we will be there. Or if you know anyone who's going, send them our way. We're happy to talk to people and, glad hand with all the who's who of U.S. soccer.
That's right. We are there. So, all right, Mr. Hammer, I shall release you back to convention duty. You have a wonderful time, and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks, buddy.
Fair enough. Have a great show, fellas.
All right, thank you. There he goes, the Hammer himself, out at the United States Coaches Convention there at the Anaheim Convention Center. So that's all going on. Let me get to some more super chats here. $5 super chat from Raphael. $5 to be able to say Happy New Year, COG. See, everybody likes to push the statute of limitations, but for $5, I'll allow it. Again, I'm for sale, Alex. I'm always for sale. Executive producer Herb, always great to have Herb in the house. Herb, good to see COVID didn't kill you and that we don't have the Herb Memorial going. So it looks like you're still alive unless your wife is doing this for you. I have no idea. It says, hey, Josh, hey, Alex, here's $10.99 for the COG podcast and $9.01 to fund the new Panda and Hammer show. So there you go. Panda and Hammer in the morning.
Funny, man. It's gaining momentum now.
I tell you, it's, all you need is a bad idea and it just runs. That's bad ideas always get momentum. Just remember that. I'm pretty sure that's why we have, let me see if I can play it correctly.
Panda and Pato in the morning.
Yep. Panda and Pato in the morning. See, there you go.
I love that sound.
It is.
I don't know why.
It is. I want you to know I spent money getting that created, and I'm like, I need it to be as annoying as you can make it. That was my my whole things there. So let's get to some more news and move on from Yovan Kovski because the LA Galaxy have. So shall we. I wanted to get to the single game ticket sales, right? Single game ticket sales coming up here, and that was available today. There was a pre-sale yesterday. And let's just say there's not a lot of tickets left anymore. Okay. That's basically how it all comes down to everything. As a matter of fact, I actually have some news. And basically that news is that the LA Galaxy are going to be announcing tomorrow that basically this game is a sellout. Now there are limited tickets available, limited inventory tickets available for new season ticket members. So if you were like, hey, I wasn't going to pay the $7,000 it was going to cost for the single game ticket, but you want to pay the $4,000 it's going to cost you in order for your full season in nice seats, right? I forget how much everything. I've looked, I've been, the whole deal there. So there's still some deals to be had, which means you could still get season tickets in limited quantities this year. As a matter of fact, I was told that perhaps the Galaxy even bumping up against the season ticket member cap that they have. If you were going to put a guess on what and by the way, I have no idea. I'm just guessing. All right. I've asked the season ticket numbers are like secret sauce at KFC, like the herbs and spices. You don't know what those herbs and spices are, right? Nope. Don't know. But I'm hearing they're bumping up against that cap or at least close to it. And I was going to try to guess what that cap was. And if I'm going to guess, Alex, okay, I'm going to make you guess first. What do you think the cap for season ticket members, the Galaxy, again, we have no inside knowledge on this. Yeah. I don't want people to think we're like hinting at something. We're not. We're guessing.
We're just shooting at and hoping that it's close enough.
Yes.
I mean, this is a stadium with capacity of 25,000. So
25,000, just shy of 26. Yeah, whenever you all get there.
Around there. I'd assume the highest, I believe,
this is just for season ticket members, right? Because remember,
season tickets.
They cap the season tickets. So how many? Yes.
Maximum that they would possibly would be like 12,000, I think.
See, I said 13. So you and I think are in the same. And the reason we do, one is we know the LA Galaxy love their walk-ups, right? And so you do need to have that inventory that's available to turn, right? And so they do like that. I think that 12, 13 is probably that number, which, by the way, I think at one point the LA Galaxy were down to like 7,500 season ticket members, like easily. I think 7,500 is probably a good guess. Even though they never tell us. By the way, if you ever want to watch an executive squirm at the LA Galaxy, ask them how many season ticket members they have. I've done it so many times, it's enjoyable every single time. So yeah, so I'm hearing they're bumping up against that cap. So there's inventory still available for season ticket members if you get new season tickets, and premium inventory. What does premium inventory mean? It's like a lot of those VIP sections, possibly the suites, like the cabanas, maybe the on-field sections. Basically, you got to have some coin. Rich Galaxy fan sections, you know those ones, Alex. The whole deal. Did you think, now we saw sort of the ranges whenever we're looking at the pre-sale and the season ticket member pre-sale that happened on Wednesday, about 164 to about 392 for add-ons for this Miami game. Whenever you saw the full range of the tickets that were released today, about 490 to 890 was sort of the range. Too much, too little? Where do you sit on the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, the Messi phenomenon, man, it's good for all these owners and their wallets. They're going to get a lot of bank when he comes to visit their stadiums. Yeah, I mean, California is already pretty expensive as it is. So last time Miami came here to play LAFC last season, it was expensive. And, you know, to be honest, I'm really not surprised. I was full-heartedly expecting to see like tickets going up for $1,000, you know, around $800. Not surprised at all. And, you know, prayers to you guys in the resale market, because it's going to be wild in there with those prices, and the demand at some point is going to get really high because, you know, coming from Miami to here, the West Coast, you're not going to see Messi that many more times, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the thing for me is that, you know, the LA Galaxy went out and they decided to have this game at Dignity Health Sports Park. They decided not to take it to a bigger venue. I'm sure they could have taken it to a bigger venue. And so this is their cash out thing. Now, listen, I think that they gave the best value to the season ticket members. Quite honestly, somebody in the Discord was talking and saying there's value in season tickets this year. Just based on the one game, there's probably value in the season tickets. I know there are people out there who are going to sell their season tickets and probably pay for half of their season or possibly even more for this. As far as I'm concerned, they're your season tickets, and you get to do what you want. So I'm not a gatekeeper here. That's not how it happens. And I don't care how much you ask for your tickets, because I'm always like, hey, if you don't like that price, then you don't got to pay it, right? It's one of those.
Exactly.
So for me, I heard parking about $40 for this particular game as well, right? So everything is jacked up for this. This is going to be a media bizarre blitz craziness that is happening. This is the first game of the season for the LA Galaxy. Miami has a game midweek before this for their season opener, and they have a preseason tour that takes them all over the United States. Possibly advantage LA Galaxy, possibly disadvantage LA Galaxy. We're going to see sort of where that one sits. But this is a tremendous game. So seeing all these season tickets and the whole deal, again, the big takeaway that's going to be announced tomorrow is limited capacity in terms of season ticket member new tickets, and then premium seating. That's it. Otherwise, this game is officially sold out. So keep that in mind as you go. Now, let's talk about something that's pretty interesting as well. This was news. This is from Tom Bogert. And if Tom says it, it's true. So you don't have to like second guess this or anything. I'm sure the announcements will eventually come. But basically, Tom Bogert says Manchester City have triggered the option to sign Mexican youth international Alex Acala from LA Galaxy 2. Alcala, 18, joined LA Galaxy in 2020 in a deal that included City having a purchase option when he turned 18. This is the first transfer window that is available since he's turned 18. This is a deal that we had Dennis DeClosa come on this podcast and talk about, and how it was sort of maybe the future of deals like this. And so this really was a DTK special, setting up Alcala, who was basically training with the LA Galaxy and developing with the LA Galaxy until he was 18. So that way Manchester City that could sign him, right? That group could sign him. They've done that. They have optioned this sale. I don't know what the number is. I've never heard what the number is, but I'm going to be very interested to see. But bottom line is Manchester City will probably take him, develop him a little bit further, probably sell him on, is usually the case how this goes, and they'll maybe make $2-3 million whenever they do it, and that's how they roll, right? It's about developing the players that have the upside. They'll get them, they'll develop them a little bit now that he's 18. By the way, that doesn't mean that you won't see him playing for New York City FC, right? Like that's
exactly, because they're under the City Football Group, and City Football Group has clubs in Spain and Australia and Brazil. It would be no surprise at all to see him back in MLS.
Yeah, and so I again don't count him out. No first team minutes for Acala, and wasn't really expected. This was always in the plan, always in the cards. It was just a matter of if he continued to develop in a way that the City Group basically thought that they would want to take him. And so it's a big deal. Like it's another. We talked about the sale of Vasquez to Liga MX, right, from the academy and those types of things. And so that was $100,000. And you're sort of
Brandon
like,
Tejas?
Oh, Tejas. Yeah, that's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah, Tejas.
Vasquez. Who's Vasquez?
Yeah, I'm like, no, I was thinking Brandon Vasquez, other player. And so that's $100,000, right? That's not a lot of money, but it sets a precedent. It sets up a thing. Same thing now with Alcala. This sets a precedent. This type of thing works. Now that it works, do you get to do it again, right? And so this could be a pipeline for the LA Galaxy to get more money and to develop players. And I think Greg Vanney was sort of saying, not all players are going to make it to the first team, right? That's not how this works. If you're developing players, by the way, not all players make it to the first team. And so you can sell these as assets to different teams and make some money. So yeah, that's sort of where we're talking about in all this. But this is an interesting deal. Now we want to see if they can replicate this and continue to sort of turn those out. But yeah, Alcala, we've watched Alcala play, and he's an interesting player. In a lot of ways, he reminds me of Efrain Alvarez, which was at the level he's at, clearly head and shoulders, thinks better, thinks faster, has
more technical,
he does everything just a little sharper, a little bit better, and in some cases, miles better and miles sharper. But I've learned that doesn't always translate whenever you get to playing big boy soccer, right? Whenever you get up to playing
exactly with grown men, right?
Yeah,
well, because you can excel at youth development, and we've seen the Galaxy invest a lot in their academy recently. Playing a lot of teams, going to different tours and tournaments, and showcasing these players, and that's amazing. But like you said, Josh, not all these guys are going to make it into the first team. Usually it's defenders that do end up making it from the first team. You rarely see attackers, mostly because the Galaxy always invests heavily into attackers. But yeah, this is a good thing for the academy. And, Alcala is a very special player. He's been hyped up a lot in Mexico. They're really high on him.
Right.
We've seen a lot of clips and highlights from him against teams like Manchester United's academy and other European academies as well that the Galaxy have gone up against in years past. So this is a pretty big deal. And again, this was a deal during the Dennis DeClosa era. So good to see that throughout all this time, it still went through.
Yeah, we'll hopefully we'll eventually see all those numbers and all that fun stuff, because that sort of really gives you a good idea. This is new territory for the Galaxy. I can't say that I know what that is, but I think eventually we're going to find out what the numbers are. So, so there's that. MLS also came out with the news. Don Garber put it out. MLS put out a press release as well that Box to Box, the same people who did Drive to Survive, are developing an MLS focused docu-series for the 2024 season. Yeah. Awesome. And by the way, Box to Box is selling a ton of these, because they're like, look what we did to F1, right? And really it did, and it kicked off a surge in F1 that hasn't been seen, and really got a lot of people engaged and involved with it. I mean, my wife, I watched Drive to Survive, and I got locked in. I started getting into it a couple weeks before the Vegas Grand Prix. So for that whole week, that was the one thing I wanted to do, but unfortunately didn't get to go this year, but next year I will. Yeah, and that's sort of the cool thing, is that you could place it on the map. I always find it interesting too. I think that MLS fans or soccer fans in general are still niche sport
yes,
guys,
especially
anyway.
West Coast soccer guys.
Right,
you got to wake up early.
You got to wake
to
up
watch
early.
those European games.
That's
so.
right. You got to do it. So you're always trying to do you watch hockey?
No, I don't really watch.
That'll be
the only major sport I don't watch.
That'll be your next one. You'll be like, man, hockey's a lot like soccer, and this is kind of cool, except that it's indoors. So I always think that sort of thing. So anyway, they call it. This is a new documentary. Box to Box is the name of the docu-series that they're sort of unfiltered access to the league. So get ready to experience MLS in a way you never have before. I mean, they're really hyping it up. I'll be interested to see how it plays out. I imagine it'll be Messi heavy, which I would expect in any docuseries. But I mean, you could really find it's kind of like Hard Knocks. Do you watch any Hard Knocks?
Yeah, I love Hard Knocks.
Hard Knocks. Okay, watching Miami right now, and the in-season Hard Knocks is amazing, right? Just amazing. The way you tell the stories. You start doing that with multiple teams across the season, and you're sort of able to put these out in series and be like, oh, I don't know how many crews you have to have that go out, and maybe you're with 5 or 6 teams every week, and you sort of pick the storylines that really pop from those games, and that's how you do it. But how would you not want to do that? And see that, because I don't know, You put music behind it. You get a good narrator out there. By the way, available for narration, just in case they need anybody. And you could really have some fun, I think, with how it is. So hey, I'm for it. Let's see what that produces. I'm all for every bit of MLS content we can possibly get. Right?
Yeah, I'm hoping that they also do a good job, and I guess maybe not getting MLS too involved. I want them to be the ones telling the stories. I want it to be authentic, how they want to tell it. How we are seeing these stories, because a lot of what makes Drive to Survive so good is that it's very raw when you get those interviews with the drivers, with everybody there. I just hope that with this documentary, they do the same thing with the coaches and the players. And, there's no things that are off limits to talk about, because we know in MLS, there's a lot of different things that can go on. That we've seen in recent years, right? Like the boycott, not really talked too much on Apple TV. Imagine if they were doing that, they would have a whole episode dedicated to that if they did it this past season. Man,
I was getting so much pressure to not talk about that was such a horrible. It was not fun last year at the beginning of last year. Let's be very clear. This isn't a much different situation with all this. So, and then Lex points out, and yes, Lex, you are correct. Didn't Will Misselbrook say the Galaxy are working on their own documentary? Yes, they are. We've seen the cameras in with us whenever we were there. Again, I think Will, and listen, Will's a communications, he's a PR guy, so I think that's going to be polished probably more than we would like. But I also think that if you don't capture the raw sort of stuff, then the documentary falls flat, right? It can't just be a promo piece.
Exactly, like the Messi to America documentary that was on Apple TV. Like, I watched a couple episodes. I didn't like it because all it was a PR piece, if we're being honest. You're just talking to Messi, all the things you want to hear from him. It just didn't feel too authentic that a lot of documentaries have that are successful. Like, I remember when that documentary, the Messi one, came out, the Beckham documentary came out at the same time, and that one is a lot more raw. You feel the emotions. The Apple Messi one, you didn't feel it. So I hope we get to feel somewhat connected to the stories being told. And I think that's the important thing that really needs to be hit when it comes to this series.
Housekeeping item, LA Galaxy announced the kickoff time for April 13th away match against Vancouver Whitecaps. That kickoff time is at 7:30 p.m. All right, 7:30 p.m. It was a TBD, I believe, and so now it's 7:30 p.m. Just so that way you know where everything is, okay? So that's that. Now let's get to the roster a little bit, because we've now filled out more of the roster. We put John McCarthy on there. We put Miki Yamane on there. That's 23 players now out of a possible 30. 7 more players to go in order to add it all up. And so now, in order to talk about what comes next, we get to the 2024 rumor tracker. And let's go down. And remember, Corner of the Galaxy has your rumor tracker there. There's one that's missing. I'm waiting on confirmation for stuff, and then I will update that. But we will talk about all the rumors here right now. We talked about John McCarthy getting over the line. We talked about Miki Yamane getting over the line. Now, the biggest one right now is 5 stars and a fire emoji. All right, that's how you know it's getting serious. 5 stars and a fire emoji goes with Gabriel Pec at Vasco da Gama. We have confirmed, and COG was first to confirm. The numbers are that the LA Galaxy agree for a $10 million transfer. There's $1.5 million in performance incentives that could also go back to Vasco da Gama. And then there is a 30% sell-on clause. So the LA Galaxy are buying 70% of the player. This always feels weird, but we're going to talk about it anyway. 70% of the player, Vasco da Gama will hold 30%, because everybody knows a young player like this, there's going to be a resale, right? There's going to be a market afterwards. And if the Galaxy move him in 2 to 3 years, that sale is going to benefit Vasco da Gama, and it's going to benefit the LA Galaxy. Kevin Baxter had his story and basically confirmed all those items in there as well, and they've agreed to the most expensive transfer. It was right around $10 million for Chicharito with Sevilla. This is going to be a few $1,000s more than that probably that makes it, but plus the 1.5 in incentives is enough to make this the most expensive transfer in LA Galaxy history. What do you get from what do you see whenever you look at Gabriel Pec?
Yeah, I really like this move following the trade of Tyler Boyd. Peck is literally a like-for-like profile replacement for him. Tyler Boyd, very direct, very vertical. That's what Peck provides. Diego Fagundes, we know he's more of a guy who likes to cut inside, play in the half spaces. Jonathan Perez, the jury's still kind of out on what kind of player he is, but Peck is an established guy who is going to go forward, who's going to get in dangerous areas, who's going to look to be the catalyst of an attack. And that's what he had to do with Vasco da Gama last season, because it was their first year back in the top flight Brazilian league. So he had to carry a lot of the team's weight in the attack. And again, this is a player who has, like Tyler Boyd, he's available. He hasn't really suffered any injuries. Brazil has a heavy heavy game schedule, and he played in almost every single game. So he's going to be expected to do the same here at the LA Galaxy. And that's the one thing Tyler Boyd was good at, being available, playing through injuries, and just being the same player, same dangerous player week in and week out. And I think the Galaxy are really going to get that. And this is a guy who definitely elevates the ceiling of the entire team. Unlike, older players who mostly just raise the floor, for being honest.
Yeah, I will say when you look at him, I agree. Direct. He's a little cagey too. I like his ability to push the ball past players. Right. It's one of those where he gets a player to bite to the inside. He pushes the ball to the outside, and he has enough pace and speed to get around. Hearing from some Vasco da Gama fans, they were sort of saying, "Hey, he still needs a little work on like that final pass type of thing." I can deal with that, right? The whole deal. But he's going to be looking in there for Joveljic and Peck also sort of the long shooter out there. Yamane is going to be on that outside working probably, and it depends. I think they think Peck can go left or right. In fact, as a matter of fact, I had that discussion. They're like either side, it doesn't matter. Right?
Yeah, he's played on both sides last season. Yeah, the thing with Peck too, yeah, he definitely is a long shooter. But Tyler Boyd was as well last year. I think Tyler Boyd actually averaged farther distance. His shots were than Gabriel Pec. But yeah, if you look at them statistically side by side, they're very similar players in that regard in their offensive games.
And we can confirm as well, and this was one of the first things we confirmed, this is a young designated player signing, right? So the LA Galaxy going with a reduced cap hit because of a young designated player. Here's the thing. As we get to these other rumors, there's a possibility that the other designated player that they're also going after in some of these scenarios could also be a young designated player. As a matter of fact, the Galaxy could have 2 young designated players, and I believe they get cap relief from both of those. It was funny. We talked to you about adding a 4th designated player early, and it was because DPs cost so much against the cap space. You'd end up spending, like 50% of your cap space on designated players, right? And that doesn't make any sense. Well, the opposite of that is to use young designated players to drive the cap space down because they don't have that full budget cap hit. And if they do that, I think they get reduced cap hit and they can spend more money in the center of the roster underneath the cap. Really interesting take on some of this. And if you get guys who are young, 22, 23 in those areas, the ability to run, the ability to still be game changers, and you're able to sort of put the game on their shoulders at 23, a little bit of a gamble in some of these things, but you're sort of seeing that they're developing these guys into, next time we get Will Kuntz on, we'll talk about cap and sort of how he manages cap and all that stuff. But this is a really interesting one, and Gabriel Pec is a really fun, lively player to watch. I mean, this is a guy, and I think you said it. They went after somebody who seems durable, right? They went after somebody who seems ready to play, who sort of fits the ability. I think the Galaxy are going to be a lot quicker in the counter, right? A lot of times Ricky Puig would get into the counter and there'd be nobody there with him, right? And
exactly. Douglas Costa didn't have the legs. You
right.
basically had to depend on Tyler Boyd every single game to do that, and you wear him out for 90 minutes like that.
Yep, absolutely. By the way, Lex, $5 super chat. If this is the LA Galaxy defense for 24, do you feel it's good enough to make them MLS Cup contenders with the worst goals against in the league in 23? I'm skeptical. I think you should be. There's a couple things to be skeptical about, but it's not like they haven't gone, Alex, at least in my mind, and invested in the defense, right? Aude is sort of the starter. You have Nelson as the backup. I think we're sort of thinking Cuevas back up on the right side. Yamane is the starter at right back, but Yamane is a veteran and a defender of the year in the Japanese league.
He's got some pedigree to him. He's not a nobody.
He's not, and you're going to pair him with Yoshida. And by the way, I keep seeing like depth charts that show like Cáceres and Yoshida starting next to each other. And in my mind, Jalen Neal starts in front of one of those guys all the time, right? Because you have a young player, but you're going to pair him with an older player, and you're going to be able to rotate the older players, and you'll be able to rotate Neal when you need to as well. There seems to be a good flow and a transition there for me. So I'm not saying Cáceres and Yoshida couldn't start next to each other. I just don't think that that's what the plan is right now. I think Neal and Yoshida are quite honestly the starters, and Cáceres with his injury and coming back and working everything in. We'll certainly be able to talk to Greg Vanney. I believe next Thursday is when everything is supposed to sort of get back to us being able to talk. So mark that down on your calendar there, Alex.
Will do.
We'll be able to talk to everybody and sort of get their opinions on everything and find out about injuries and that type of thing. But with the defense sort of shaping up, I do like that Yoshida and Yamane are going to be sort of on the same side, that Neal's possibly going to be on that left side, that you're going to have Aude, who I think needs to make a step forward, but I'm not convinced he can't make a step forward Mostly it was conditioning for me for Aude more than anything. And if he could just stay in games more, he's going to be okay.
Yeah, give him a full preseason. I think we'll see the best out of him. He came in 6 games into the year. Not ideal, especially for a young guy coming into a new country. But I'm high on Aude. I think he'll do pretty good this season. Definitely some question marks, but I feel there's a lot more growth that could be coming within that young group. And obviously the goalkeeper situation needs to be figured out because you got 3 guys there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in the preseason and what Manny rolls out with.
Yeah, the other question mark for you absolutely should be Dejan Joveljic, right? Starting at the striker. If you've noticed any of the rumors, none of them are for strikers. They are all for wingers, right? And you can go winger after winger after winger after winger. That's where the rumors have been. That's where the LA Galaxy are focusing. That's going to be a gamble. And I think it's been well spelled out by a bunch of people. Chris Tucker and I have this conversation a lot about Dejan Joveljic, which is he's a U22. You paid, I think, like $3 or $4 million for his transfer whenever you got him, so you spent him. But he only costs like $200,000 against the cap. So people were talking about you should have just paid Tyler Boyd money instead, and now you're going to go with a guy who costs you like. Oh, now I'm like, you don't understand. Like when you bring guys in on U22 contracts, you could get somebody who possibly replaces Tyler Boyd for way less.
Less.
You can pay them more money, but cap space wise, it's way less of a hit. And so that's sort of one of those things that was balanced in the offseason. And by the way, that's a gamble. You have a guy like Tyler Boyd who absolutely proved he could do it, Alex. And now you're saying, I guess we don't need him because we're going to go out and find somebody who's either as good or better.
Yeah.
That's tough.
It's tough, but I feel it makes sense. I've come around with Tyler Boyd trade and totally understand it. I mean, guy coming in first year in one contract, had a career year, overachieved in his expected goals. There's some things that kind of signal that there could be a regression in next year.
Right.
But I feel like the Galaxy were confident in their choice. And again, I feel like there's a really high possibility that this trade could work out when we look back at it 3 years down the line.
Lex says, I should say they feel like they have no depth, like that. Like with Aude, if Aude gets injured, then you're Austin Nelson. Well, Nelson's an experienced MLS defender. I don't worry about that. I'm more worry about it the right side with Cuevas and that type of thing. That's where I think you worry about the depth. But worst case scenario, you could go 3 in the back, and you could slide.
Exactly.
You could slide one of the center backs. You could get Caceres, you could get Yoshida, you could get Neal, and you could sort of string that out in the back and make some changes in that too. So, I think that the big deal here is you're going to get 2 designated players, but that also, whenever you get the 2 DPs, it's going to set you up for depth. And when we talk about some of these next rumors as well, there's the illustration of depth that it seems the Galaxy possibly could be going for. I wanted to highlight this particular tweet from Kevin Ryder, the famous Kevin Ryder from Kevin and Bean on K-Rock for so many years on KLOS now. Kevin, by the way, you're welcome on the show anytime. I know you listen occasionally. We'd love to have you on whenever you want to, but he says, I love supporting a team, the LA Galaxy, that makes this type of gamble. Getting somebody, and he's talking about Pec, before their best days is a huge risk. I love it. Takes huge balls, right? I'm sure he's talking about soccer balls whenever he says that. So I thought that was an interesting tweet, and Kevin is a lifelong LA Galaxy fan, and you'll see him at games all the time. Here's the other rumor that sort of got put up. This is the Pellistri rumor, right? And here is the interesting thing about Facundo Pellistri. This one seems a little off, and if you go back to the rumor tracker, you'll see that Pellistri is at 2 stars, right? And so I'm the arbiter of the stars, and I am telling you that the reason that there's 2 stars is because even from internally, the LA Galaxy were sort of like, this is a long shot. We don't think we're going to get him, but we're going to try, right? This is one of those, hey, shoot for the stars. You never know what you can get, right? Maybe you get a Ricky Pooch, right?
You miss all the shots you don't take, right? It's kind of
Michael
that
Scott?
kind of transfer. Yeah, Michael Scott.
Yeah, that's what I heard. So that's what they're doing with Pellistri. I don't think there's any legs to it. Listen, Galaxy interested. They absolutely went after him. I think that I would hope that they had submitted the bid and they did all the things they were going to do. But that's the interesting rumor with Pellistri. The other thing was it was PSV that was involved in that for a loan possibly. Well, now Villarreal has sort of jumped in on this too if Pellistri is going to be up. So Galaxy have a lot of competition, and that's why I don't think they think that there's a real path to landing Pellistri. But if you did get somebody like, we were joking around on Monday and sort of saying, well, what is the budget for the LA Galaxy this offseason, right? What does it look like? Whenever are they going to spend $20 million on strikers? That seems like a lot, right? The whole deal. Now they're sending about 10, 11 and a half for Pec. And I don't think that deal will be announced this week. It could some of the times these happen really fast. You have to understand, like, people sign and then all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, let's announce it right now. And then sometimes they're like, let's plan it out and let's do it. But Pec is basically to that line where everybody signed. It seems like it's ready. Kevin Baxter reporting basically that everything's agreed to. So we're just waiting for that to get across the line. But then you go and look at Pellistri. Well, if you're going to go after Pellistri, that's another $10 million easy if you're going to go after that young kid. And what you're trying to do. And so that's an interesting take, because then we can start adding this stuff up. $8 million, $10 million. I mean, you're in the $20 million. Well, it seems, and certainly with some discussions I've had, the LA Galaxy have a budget of, and tuck yourselves in for this one, because if you would have told me that the LA Galaxy had this budget starting this season, Alex, I think I probably would have been like, you're crazy. You're like, there's no way the LA Galaxy. But it seems around $25 million is what the budget is going to be. Now, I think you're going to see 2 DPs and a U22, those, and possibly a TAM with some significant money spread in all those to get about $25 million. So know what the LA Galaxy are up against as we go. That's a tremendous amount of money. And Uncle Phil opened the money bags for this, it seems like. There also seems to be a plan, Alex, that at least, has sort of been hinted at, that the idea is you buy these young players, you get them, they perform, you sell them, you buy young players, you get them. It's the sale of those players that funds the next round of buys, right? So that's what, I mean, ballsy, to sort of coin a term that Kevin used there, Mr. Kevin Ryder. Yeah, ballsy. This is a serious investment in cash, the likes of which I don't know the LA Galaxy have ever seen.
Yeah, they're definitely taking a risk here, but I think they have to do it. You have to evolve as a club when everyone else in the league has. And, if they're able to sell these young players, that's going to help a lot when it comes to leverage and transfers, like Atlanta United, when they first got Miguel Almiron, a young guy in South America, and sold him off to Newcastle. You saw them be able to quickly replace him with another young South American. Right. And if you're able to tell players, hey, we can develop you here and sell you off to Europe, they're going to be more inclined to listen to your offers, for them to demand their clubs to be let go as well. And I think overall, this is something that's going to benefit the Galaxy 5-10 years down the line if they're able to get players like, Ricky Puig, Dejan Jovic, maybe Gabriel Pec one day, sold to Europe. It's going to help their transfer strategy, and it's going to be a lot easier for them to convince younger players. Like, imagine if this Pellistri rumor came out 5 years later, right, when the Galaxy have known for selling younger players, known to develop these guys. It feels it would be a lot more possible for him to be like, okay, yeah, I think I'll give this a chance. I'll listen to it. So it's a big step that the Galaxy are taking, but much needed one after all these MLS clubs have really kind of gone through that step already.
Pottermus says, Josh or AEG really bothered about the Galaxy. I don't think you spend. Listen, I don't care if you're a billionaire. All right, like Phil Anschutz is. At $25 million is still a tremendous amount of money. I don't care what you're talking about. For my job, we deal in projects that are, 10, 12, 15, 20, $30 million. It's a lot of money. Let's not pretend it's not. And so that's a significant amount. And I think if the Galaxy, if AEG and it, wasn't interested in the LA Galaxy, they wouldn't be dedicating $25 million to basically a transfer window. By the way, that might not even count like what's going to happen in the summer too. So just keep that in mind through all this. But yeah, between $20 and $25 million is a tremendous amount. Let's get to another rumor that popped up. This one is Gabriel Rukavina. And by the way, you can spell Gabriel with a J in there as well, just in case you're looking on Transfer Market and trying to figure out who this guy is, because it took me a little while. But Gabriel Rukavina is another winger. You're looking at a guy who's 19, I should say, a kid who's 19. And currently, yeah, I know this is crazy. Alex, you're getting ready to have a $3 million transfer too, right?
He's younger than me. It's crazy.
Man, this is how you know you're getting old. The players start getting younger than you. Trust me. Eventually you'll be like, everybody on the team is now so much younger than me that if I tried to play on this team, they wouldn't allow me. Like, I'd have to be a goalkeeper at this point if I wanted to play on the LA Galaxy. And pretty soon that's going to go away, Alex. I'm not going to be able to even be a goalkeeper on the LA Galaxy team anymore. Apparently a $3 million euro. They're almost the same in exchange. So you just take $3 million, call it that. Plus bonuses and percentage from the next sale. So a sell-on fee in there as well. If you're looking at this particular signing, I can tell you, one, the LA Galaxy absolutely have interested in this player. They are interested. They're going after. They're looking at. Now, whether or not that gets done is remains to be seen. I was told basically that some of what is out there is true. Not all, but some. By the way, it would be helpful to know what wasn't true, but I didn't get that part. So basically, some of what is out there is true. Basically, Rukavina wants to leave, but Dynamo don't want to sell him for that amount. This is one of the rumors that is out there. The LA Galaxy offer includes a percentage that player and manager gets. So Dynamo in the end isn't getting the $3 million. So there's about 20% in there is what we're hearing. And basically, there's another rumor that comes up. It says the reason is the player would reportedly get a 20% of the transfer fee. Dynamo would sell him if he gave up the 20% of the transfer fee, right? Well, basically, the Galaxy, you're talking about $750,000, I think, right? So on a $3 million deal, pushes it almost to $4 million if you're going to do it. But that's negotiable. There's negotiating in here. This is not a no as far as I'm concerned. So what have you? Did you take a look at our young winger here, Rukavina? Guy has almost no first team minutes, right?
Yeah, I got my notebook right here. This is where I keep all my notes on rumors and players and stuff. Basically, playing for Dinamo Zagreb in Croatian League, 19 years old, like we said. He's made 2 appearances in 17 possible games he could have played in. And that's kind of been the one thing about him. He's, complained about the lack of playing time because he's a highly touted prospect in Croatia, played through their U16 through 19 levels, a guy that very much has shown the technical ability, the speed, everything you want to see from an exciting, dynamic winger. The one thing that I took away from this is he would definitely be more of a project than he would be a win now type player. Very raw, smaller guy, definitely needs to develop his body. And, again, this market as well for MLS hasn't necessarily been too successful. Last year, we saw LAFC invest in Stipe Biuk, who played in the same league with another team, and he was not really a game changer for them. Was basically out of their rotation, not getting any minutes by the time they made their MLS Cup run. So it's definitely a risky investment, but if they're able to play their cards right, nurture him well, and develop him well, then this can definitely bear fruit. But again, more of a risk than it is a guaranteed success.
And you're talking about depth now. This is a depth piece, a U22 piece, likely the third U22, with the Galaxy possibly having, we know one young designated player, certainly with Pec, and there's possibly another one whenever we're looking at some of the other stuff, or just a senior designated player. They're able to have 3 U22s. You have Jovic and Aude as the 2 U22s, so this would be the third U22 should this one get across the line. There was actually hints and rumors that I was talking to people that this was done. I haven't been able to confirm that yet, so we'll sort of pay attention to this as it goes and sort of keep an eye. By the way, certainly there is anything that can go wrong will go wrong sort of vibe to a lot of signings, right? Like you're like, oh yeah, we're there. They're going to sign it tomorrow, and then like something else changes and something else happens. And so it's not until you get this signature on the line that things are actually done. It gets put into the FIFA system, the transfer, the ITC gets generated, all those fun things. That's when things are actually done, as we know with Julian Araujo last year and the whole ITC transfer late, a couple minutes late type of thing.
Yeah, almost a year since that.
Almost Julian Araujo, Mr. Red Card, Mr. 4-game suspension. By the way, 4-game suspension. There was nothing there.
Nothing there. One would have been fine.
Oh my goodness. So yeah,
trying to get an Oscar nomination. That guy.
They can't all be MLS. Okay, you can't all be rough and tumble MLS. Some of those leagues are softer that those guys play in. So that's that. Now the one rumor that I don't have confirmation on is the one that was hottest this morning. And this is that there is a club interest in signing Joseph Paintsil. It's the LA Galaxy. They're interested going after Genk. There's an $8 million release clause in this, right? And so basically, whenever you talk about release clauses, it's a very simple formula. The LA Galaxy pay $8 million. They go ahead and do that. And then as long as the player wants to come there and they want to join, that deal is over. The $8 million is paid, done. Have a nice day. Everything's going on. Alex, I know you've been following Joseph a little bit here and looking at him. What can we expect from this gentleman should he sign with the LA Galaxy?
Yeah, I mean, Paintsil's one of the top players in the Belgian league, had 17 goals and 11 assists in 36 games last season. A guy who's very productive on the wings, likes to be a playmaker, and I think that might be the profile we would want to see with Gabriel Pec being so vertical and very attack-minded. I think having a guy who's also very quick and able to, play that final pass would be a good combination on the other wing. He's a player for Ghana. They're currently right now preparing for the Africa Cup of Nations. He started in their game, I think, yesterday. So he is, a guy who's with his national team, who's touted very highly by them. And again, this is, like I said, with him being a creator, I think he gets a lot of touches on the box, and he gets 1.57 shots on target per game, which is in the 99th percentile in the top 12 leagues, whatever Football Reference refers to it as. But yeah, this guy is a guy who's going to get goals on target, or shots on target, going to get touches in the box, and a guy who's not afraid to to play a different role rather than being the focal attack point. So this is also a player who's 24, 25. So you're getting somebody who's already had years of experience under his belt. Unlike Pec, who's just coming off his first season in the first division, Paintsil is basically one of the best players in his league, and this is the type of transfer that the LA Galaxy would be wise in acquiring.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. Again, I don't have any confirmation on this waiting. I know that LA Galaxy executives are out scouting, out traveling, out amongst the people of the world. Where that is, I don't know. Just probably not here. Is basically the word that everything is happening. And again, players supposed to report now on Saturday. So Saturday coming up, day after tomorrow, LA Galaxy players will be reporting. As camp starts, they have physicals and everything else that they'll go through. I believe probably Sunday, Monday, and get through that. Do all the physical training, and then on Thursday, that's when you can finally look and say, okay, good. The LA Galaxy are sort of back, and we'll be able to hear from Greg Vanney and a crazy little offseason talk to Greg Vanney about as well. So hopefully, I was talking to the Galaxy today. I'm hopeful they'll put some of that on Zoom, so that way people who can't make it to the stadium can also participate. But that's one of those really interesting things. I'll say this, and I sort of hinted at it at the beginning, or we talked about it at the beginning, but seeing the options pop up constantly, Alex, and it's like, hey, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, it doesn't matter. It puts the Galaxy in such a stronger negotiating position, right? Because you can go back and look. Again, Solari, Sosa, tell me how much money they're holding of the LA Galaxies right now. Zero, right? They don't have it. And so the whole thing is teams start to realize that as well, which is, oh, the LA Galaxy? Yeah, if you don't make a deal with them, they'll just go somewhere else because they'll get somebody else. And so it's about making a deal. It's about coming ready whenever the LA Galaxy come into it. And that gives you such a strong negotiating position. If you're ever doing, and you know, some of this is part of my real job that I do, but if you're ever doing a project, like, and you have to have like bids and stuff like that, get 3 or 4 bids. 1, you're going to learn how this particular thing happens. 2, you're going to learn about how much it should probably cost. And 3, you're going to have all the negotiating power, because you can go, well, this guy has this price, that type of thing. Well, you know, but I like you better, so I want you to be below his price so I can pick you. Oh, well, I don't do that. Okay, cool. I'll go with that guy. It's having options, and this is the truth in like any negotiation, gives you the power. And right now you're seeing the LA Galaxy position themselves in the power sort of chair, right? The ability to sit there and say, we have options. You can't hold us hostage, right? And so when you looked at some of the other, deals that have sort of come through, you could look and say, oh, well, you know, a lot of times you'd say, oh, well, the LA Galaxy are going to overpay for this guy because of this, right? You know, oh, well, they only have one option, so they're going to overpay. They're going to panic. They're going to do all these things. That's not what we're seeing. And I think not only that, but we saw with Sosa, which was 12.5. We're not paying any more than 12.5. Okay, well, then if you're not, we're walking away. And they did. And then they went and got somebody else, Gabriel Pec, who is probably going to be as good a fit as Sosa or Solari or anything else. But that also means you could go back to Sosa and Solari and be like, hey, we have this ability to go back and talk to you now. I mean, you know, it was 10, now it's 8.5. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. But, you know, we already spent our money, so if you want to make a deal, we can do it. Do you feel the or maybe do you see it the same way as I do? I feel like there's so much the ability to adjust and to react quickly right now for the LA Galaxy.
Yeah, it feels like their transfer strategy is just a lot more flexible to deal with whatever situation pops up. You know, we look back at the Douglas Costa transfer where, you know, that one, it feels like if you would have maybe put more resources into looking into different player profiles and different players across the world, we could have ended up with a different person, somebody else who maybe would have been younger, would have cost a little less, and would have had maybe just as good or more production as he did in his final stint with the Galaxy. But yeah, I mean, this refreshing of their transfer strategy, I think, brings a lot of good energy for the club. Again, this is one of the biggest clubs in MLS, no doubt about it. You can't argue that. So they've got to be able to establish themselves as that big club when it comes to these transfers. And I think we're really starting to see this movement go on. I mean, we kind of saw it a little bit in the summer window last year where, you know, we're seeing the Galaxy talk to these players, free agents. We're seeing them negotiate within the league, something that they necessarily haven't really exploited to their fullest potential. And they did last summer, which really helped the team and gave them a little boost for a couple weeks. But yeah, I'm liking what this club is doing, the direction they're heading in. And I think you're seeing a lot more organization and just a lot more communication between different departments, between people, between negotiations between clubs and players. And I think right now this is really kind of helping set in a good energy as the season comes in and as players start to report within the next couple of days.
The big news, Yovan Kovski out with the LA Galaxy. Pec very close to being across the line and will be a young designated player for the Galaxy. And then all the rumors, I mean, this is nonstop. Remember, if you want any chance at getting to that Miami game now, you're either in resale land, which God bless you and good luck. And then also you could possibly still get season tickets. So go try to get those season tickets if that's what you want to do. There's a lot of momentum behind this LA Galaxy. I think you can feel it. Alex, you sort of hinted at that as well. I feel like they're going to be an improved team. I felt like they were actually a pretty good team last year, just for a lot of reasons. It never clicked, mostly the injuries and everything else that decimated that team. But there was a stretch in there where you were sort of like, I told you this team could play. And if they get back to some of that, and you can look at sort of, there was a lot of players who departed the LA Galaxy this year, but there's still a core in there. We go back to the roster as it stands right now: Ricky Puig, Gaston Brugman, Diego Fagundes, Maya Yoshida, Mark Delgado, Dejan Joveljic, Martin Cáceres, Jonathan Bond, Chris Mavinga, Julian Aude, Johnny Perez, Edwin Cerrillo, Marcus Vercranis, Jalen Neal, Mauricio Cuevas, Daniel Aguirre, Eric Zavaleta, Novak Micevic, Gino Vivi, Miguel Berry, John Nelson, John McCarthy, and Miki Yamane. You can put Gabriel Pec right there as sort of the next one to come across the line, and then Miguel Berry still his rights to the LA Galaxy, but right now we're going to call him as a roster player because they went out to get him. So that's what we have. That's where we're setted. We will now take a break a little bit. I think there's a good chance your Friday is a chill Friday, right? But there's also a chance that all hell breaks loose. So, you never really know about this time of the year. So hope everybody enjoys their weekend. And $5 super chat from Gary says, rad show. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, Gary. We certainly appreciate it. Remember, Kevin and Eric are out at the convention. You can go visit them as well. So make sure you do that, especially on Friday. Sounds like it's going to be the big day. So if you're listening to this in the morning, head on out to that convention. I think the NWSL is also going to have their draft.
Their draft is here in the area. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's also happening down there. So a lot of fun. So, all right. Is there anything, Alex, that you want to talk about? Are you good? Did we cover all the things we were supposed to cover?
Yeah, we're good. I mean, feels like a new book instead of a new chapter for the LA Galaxy. So I'm excited to see what happens this year. And, compared to last year, I feel excited to report what's going on, to write stories about what's going to go on. Last year we had a boycott, all these transfer bans, everything. Feels so refreshing from a reporter side of things to be like, hey, there's a lot of possible stories that could be written this season.
Well, we're gonna have you know what, the name of the game in 2024 is return to fun. All right, return to fun. Things are gonna be fun in 2024. Do I guarantee it? No. I mean, is there going to be a pain along the way? Absolutely, right? But I think that overall you're going to find that things are going to be a little more fun. And remember, soccer's supposed to be fun. This show's supposed to be fun. Some of y'all take it too seriously, but we love you for it anyway, so that's good. All right, Alex, tell people where they can find you on the Galactic Tribune and everywhere else. And by the way, before he says anything, if you're not subscribed to Alex's site, then you're missing out. And I subscribe because I learn something new every time. So Alex, tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter, X, at ALXRUIZ15. All my tweets to my articles, links to everything are in there. And as Josh said, you can find a lot of my articles and analysis on the Galactic Tribune, which is a Substack.
Yep, it's good. It's gonna be great. You okay? Did you die there?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. No, go follow Substack. Go follow all that fun stuff. Alex is great. We're gonna have him on throughout the year. Whenever we need to fill in, Alex will be back here as long as he'll have us. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast, cornerofthegalaxy.com. Rumor Tracker is up there. Go visit that as well. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. We will be back on Monday night with Mr. Panda Kevin Baxter, ready to talk some more LA Galaxy. All right, for Mr. Alex Ruiz, I'm Josh. Pato Guesman, you've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo. And on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.